Hello, Southeast Missouri, and wherever you may be listening, this is the Retirement Playbook brought to you by Alspaugh Wealth Management. I'm your host, Brock Alspaugh, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. Hey, Tony, how's it going, buddy?
It's going great, Brock. Thanks for having me on the show. I've had a crazy busy week, as I know you have as well. We were talking about that before the show, how busy you've been.
Yeah.
I thought I'd been busy, and then you told me about everything you have going on, and I thought, I've got it actually pretty easy comparatively. So that's good.
I'm here for you, Tony.
Yeah.
I'm here for you to make
Nope.
you feel better about your schedule and your life. Okay?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. Hey, the one thing that I accomplished this past week that I'll throw out there, and then we'll find out what you've been up to. But after a 6-year process, finally got somebody to take our piano. We've been trying to get. We have an upright piano, very heavy, beautiful piano, a Kincaid, a really nice piano,
yeah, sure.
right?
Yeah.
And it's a compact upright, but it plays beautifully, beautiful condition. Couldn't give it away. Had it on all the marketplaces for free. No, people would show interest and then not come,
Yeah.
or say, "Could you deliver it, or will you help move it?" And I'm like, "No, I'm giving it away.
You know,
the least you can do is have it moved."
And
right?
that's the worst part is like the audacity of people,
I
right?
know.
To go, and we've done this too. We've, tried to sell stuff and
Sure.
cars and whatever. And it's just like, I'm to the point now, I don't even want my wife to put something on for sale on
Right.
Facebook or anything, because I'm tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to go, will you do this? Will you do that? It's like a garage sale, Tony. We had a garage sale probably 10 years ago, and then we stopped doing it because of this story right here. We had something for like $1.50, okay?
Right.
And the lady comes up and she goes, will you take 75 cents for this?
Would you take?
And
half
I took
of
whatever
$1?
it was, and I slammed it on the ground and said, how about nobody gets it?
No,
I didn't actually do that. But my point
Yeah.
is like, it
Yeah.
drives me crazy, man.
Yeah, doesn't it though?
It's like, it's not even worth it. I'd
But
rather
nobody,
go
you
donate
can't give away. I don't care how nice the piano is, you can't give them away.
Well,
Pianos,
doesn't matter
you
what it
cannot.
is. It's just, I mean, it's
They're
crazy.
really hard to move. And I told one person, said, "Well, I really want it, but I don't have a truck, and can't you help me move?" And I go, "I don't have a truck either, and no, I'm not going to move it. That's why I'm giving it away for free." But I said there are piano moving companies, piano movers. That's what they do.
Oh,
They
okay.
move
Sure.
and tune pianos.
Yeah.
And you're going to need it tuned once it's moved. So for whatever the cost of having it moved is, you'll have a nice new
Right.
piano that plays great.
Because you're getting it for free.
So it is amazing. But everyone I've talked to said, yeah, you can't. Like, people, you'll buy a house and you have young kids. Yeah. Do you want a piano? Well, why? Because we're not taking it with us. It stays with the house.
I get it. Yeah. I've never owned anything like that.
Just know that getting rid of it will be a chore.
Right.
I had people responding, for $200, I'll come and move it for you. Like, they were telling me, we'll take your piano I had to pay them $200.
It's kind of like buying a boat. What's the two happiest days of your life when you have a boat? It's the day you buy it and the day you sell it. It's,
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
How
I'm
have you
pretty
been,
sure
though?
it's the second one that makes them more happy.
Yeah, selling it.
Yeah.
Well, how have you been, though, Brock? Good?
No, it's been good. Life's good. Business is crazy, which is great. I love helping people. We have had to kind of slow down some things and adjust some things at the office, and it's good, and then so but and then the boys, Grant just finished up track season for the junior high, had a great season.
Good.
And now, Tony, it's official. It is football season.
Yep. Spring training, right?
Even though it's not football season, in our house, it is football season. That's the next sport. So anyway, so life is great. Life is great. All right, let's get started here today on this show. We're going to talk about some retirement expenses that you maybe not have accounted for. Are you ready for some of these things? And we're going to talk about some of the most common people that don't see these expenses coming up, because you're so trained to know that, I'm going to need 75, 80% of my income. And quite frankly, the first couple of years anyway, Tony, in my 20 years of doing this, that's just not true. It's not enough for the first couple of years, because you got all this free time, and now you want to do what? You want to go travel, you want to do things. It all costs money. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have some recommendations. We're going to have some other thoughts on
Good.
that. But before we get started, folks, go to our website. It's alspaughwealthmanagement.com. alspaughwealthmanagement.com. And you can check out all the things on our website, including you can order my book. It's called The Last Paycheck: How to Build Sustainable Retirement Income and Keep Those Paychecks Coming In. You can actually check out past shows. You can go to the link to our website, or excuse me, to the YouTube page for the show. There's just a lot of things you can do on the website. We're going to talk still about Roth conversions. I know people are like, gosh, that guy I feel like that's all he talks about is Roths. Well, I'm a huge Roth component, and I think doing a Roth conversion in the right circumstance should be a part of the conversation. I'm not telling you should do it. It should be a part of the conversation. Anyway, more information on that on the website, alspaughwealthmanagement.com. But if you need help, if you're going, Brock, I understand what you're saying. I agree with this and that. I don't know. I haven't been ready to pull the trigger. Pull the trigger, folks. Get a plan. Understand where you're at, where you're going, and how we can help you get there. Give us a call, 573-332-7855. All right. You ready to go, Tony?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to talk about some retirement expenses that are waiting that you may not have considered. And again, it kind of goes back to, I got a quick question for you, Tony. What do you want to do when you retire? Like, I'm not talking about in retirement, like your daily routine. I'm saying when you retire, what do you want to do?
I would like to travel and spend more time with my hobbies. Recording. What I'm doing right now is going to be part of my hobby, but I'll need to fund that, update my studio. But traveling, obviously, hopefully I'll have grandkids by that point. And that's big on the list, I know. And, the bucket list. When I first enter retirement, both my wife and I have a bucket list. We've talked about it. I'm half Irish, so I want to visit Ireland. I'm half English. I've already been to England.
As you should.
As I should, yeah. Yep. So anyway.
The point that, okay, so you want to do that.
Yeah.
Are you going to try to do that at the beginning of your retirement within the first couple of years, or do you think you might want to do that at the end? Of course it's at the beginning.
Right away, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So, one of the things we talk about a lot as financial advisors in this industry is the projection of income. And when you're talking and working with folks, you say, okay, you're going to need 75 to 80%, to 80% of your pre-retirement income. Okay, to live, kind of the same kind of lifestyle, because you won't have some of the other expenses. You won't have contributions. You maybe not have as much cost for health insurance. But the point is that is not always the case, Tony. And so we're going to talk about some of these expenses that you may not have heard of working with anyone else, or just, kind of reading your publications or whatever you do for research. Okay. So the point is that when you're ready to retire, this is a grand moment, Tony. Like, you've worked 20, 30, 40 years to build up to this point. And it should be a quote unquote, maybe not an official celebration. Some people do, but it should be a celebration of life, right? Like, hey, there's 3 phases to life, and now I'm done with the first one and I'm into the second one.
Right.
So, and there's only one more, and you won't be around for that one. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the big one. And so why would you want to go into this and celebrate this and not be able to do some of the things that you've always wanted to do because you forgot to account for some of these expenses? Okay. And obviously, Tony, we want to talk about what healthcare looks like, right? I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. That's not really, the one-time expense that you would have that I was kind of alluding to. But health insurance is a big one, and making sure that not only the health insurance, but your wellness, right? Like, how much is it going to cost to be a member of a gym and exercise? Because if you're not working now, you need to stay healthy, and one way to do that is to exercise, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of them. But really what I'm talking about, Tony, are really 3 things.
Okay. Number 1,
travel. Okay. Just like you said, so many people, I would say, and I don't know, I don't have the anything to back this up, but just based on my experience, I mean, I would say probably 80%, if not more, answer that question with, I want to travel.
Yeah.
I want to go see things that I haven't been able to see.
I want to go to Key West and party like a rock star. There's no problem.
I mean, whatever floats your boat. But my point is that, okay, if we know we want to celebrate and do some things
Right.
in the first couple of years, it's okay. Now, you have to have a frame of reference to go, okay, we're going to save a little extra money. That's where I'm going with this. We're going to save a little extra money for the first couple of years of retirement to enjoy life. But we have to understand that that's 2 years, year and a half, 1 year, whatever that time frame is. And then we have to go kind of back to the budget of understanding the monthly expenses. And not that you shouldn't do that anyway. You should. But if you're going to look at this and go, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and that's how much, this is how much it's going to cost, then we need to have a bucket of money that has this money separated from those normal monthly expenses. Okay. Does that make sense? So we have our emergency fund. We have our monthly expenses. So those are the two things that we normally would discuss with anyone. But now we need to have this extra bucket of money to do those things because, wow, we have all this free time and we're going to spend a little extra in the first 2 years. Kind of a different way to think about it, Tony. You know, you don't really, we haven't talked about this before, you and I. And honestly, it's a great way to kind of set yourself up for a great couple of years there. And not that after that's not great. I'm just saying a little extra celebration, right? A little extra things that you can do to help yourself be happy and those kinds of things. So having a little extra bucket of money that is set aside for your retirement in the first couple of years is always a great idea. So travel is one. I said there was 3 things. 2 that could use some of this bucket of money, right, is let's say you're going into retirement and you have a vehicle that is 5 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old. We know that vehicles don't last forever and that you're probably going to need a new vehicle at some point in your retirement. Most people will account for the maintenance of that vehicle, but you don't really account for a new purchase of a new vehicle. So we've got to do that. So if you've got a car that's, 5 years old and you're going to retire in 5 years, well, now that vehicle's 10 years old and we have to account for another bucket of money, say $20, $30, $40,000 set aside to purchase a new vehicle. And so that's another thing that people, I don't think of when it comes to their retirement expenses, Tony, at least in my experience. Okay. So one is travel. We're going to travel a little bit more in those first couple of years. How much is that going to cost? Put in an extra bucket of money. 2 is a vehicle. So maybe it's a good idea to go ahead and buy that vehicle that you want in retirement while you're still working in those last couple of years. So you don't have to have this, oh gosh, what am I going to do to pay for a new vehicle? The third one is your home, right? Is that the older your home is, the more likely is you're going to have some higher expenses with an older home. In other words, we have an expense of, okay, we've got to replace air conditioning unit. So that's $10,000. We've got to replace the roof within 5 years. That's another $20,000, whatever the dollar amount is. So my point is, make sure that we've got a clear idea of some potential expenses that could happen in the first few years of your retirement. Okay. Yeah. And again, this isn't to say that you won't always have some expenses and we have to account for that on a monthly basis. No question. We've got to do that. That's 101. But I'm just saying a different way to think about this is to say, okay, if you're 20 years away or 15 years away from retirement, let's put an extra bucket of money that we can put money into every month and save up for these anticipated expenses in the first couple of years of retirement. Yeah. That's going to give you a way better chance to succeed. It's going to give you a way better feeling of, wow, okay, I can do this and I can do what I want to do. Okay. So it takes a little bit of discipline. It takes a little bit of sacrifice, but it's going to be so worth it when you get there, right? To be able to, think about that, Tony.
Yeah. Well, I like how you're talking about the things that are going to hit people right away. And a lot of people are thinking about travel. And of course, you have to plan for that. people might not be thinking so far in advance about new vehicles and costly things like upkeep on an older home. And then and we've talked about it before, healthcare. You briefly mentioned at the beginning of the show, that's one of the biggest expenses in retirement too.
100% it is, right? I mean, because healthcare is not just your insurance, folks, right? It's okay. You've understood that you could not afford to retire before 65. This is an example, by the way. So we retire at 65, and we know that our Medicare Part B is, A is included, B is going to be, $200 a month. Let's just call it.
Sure.
And then you've got a supplement, another $200 a month. We've got a prescription plan. Let's just call it $450 per month. Okay. And you think, okay, well, I'm all in for my healthcare for $450. Not so fast. The old Lee Corso. Where's my pencil?
Yep.
Not so fast.
Premiums, deductibles, co-pays,
and just your overall wellness.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's experts, and we're referencing some material here that says that you should spend 10% of your income on your wellness. And what that means is like, hey, let's eat a little bit healthier. Well, when you do that, what happens? Well,
it costs more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have to join a gym to be a little bit healthy, that costs more. I mean, you could do things outside and, but in the winter months, what are you going to do? So
plus, if you need exercise equipment or medical equipment, people don't factor in. Most people pay for most, if not all, of their hearing aid costs, which are expensive, and a lot of vision costs, eyeglasses. And if even with supplemental, your insurance might not cover all those things. There are going to be co-pays and minimums and deductibles.
100%. And then, as we move on through retirement, right? So we kind of hit on the first few years there, but as we move on to retirement and you can't drive, well, who's going to take you places, right?
Right.
And so there's additional expenses. So, look, I'm not trying to scare people from retiring at all, because you can do this. All I'm saying is that, to just have a blanket rule and to follow a blanket rule to go, well, I'm going to have 80% of my pre-retirement income, so I'm good. Well, no, let's take a closer look at it. Okay. And be able to fund the things you want to do. Because again, we always look at wants and needs when we're talking about budget, Tony.
Yep.
But look, there's nothing wrong with having wants. And there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? I want to spend $20,000 in my first year of retirement on 2 trips that I've always wanted to take. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
All we have to say is, okay, how are we going to fund that? Because if we already have everything else set aside to fund your monthly retirement income, you've got it. The money has to come from somewhere. So setting aside, I love the fact that you can open up an after-tax brokerage account. It doesn't have to be in a retirement account. And it gives you a little bit more flexibility to say, okay, I want to spend this money on that. And we have an account that's earmarked for these one-time expenses. Okay.
Yep.
So that's a very popular way. It's like, look, there's nothing wrong with having an after-tax account. You open up a brokerage account, you start putting in $300-400 a month in it, and you'd be surprised how fast that could add up over a 4, 5, 6, 10-year period of time, Tony. Okay. All right. What else do we have here? Oh, we already talked about the maintenance, right, on a home. We've got maintenance on cars. We've got your wellness, not healthcare, your wellness, Tony. That's 2 different things. I mean, it's kind of under the healthcare umbrella, but spending money on your wellness is another thing that you have to consider, not just your healthcare insurance, like we mentioned.
Sure.
So we've got that. What about going and doing things with your grandkids, right? And traveling, okay? Because that's not the kind of travel I just mentioned. I was talking about one-time expenses, but traveling it can be very expensive, more expensive than what we're projecting right now. Why? Because gas goes to $5 a gallon. You got to be ready for that, right?
Yeah.
There's adjustments you have to make within your budget to account for that. That's why when we always show, projections, Tony, we are 100% factoring in some type of inflation. Because if you're not, you're totally missing the boat here. Like, that's really, really important. Okay. But again, Tony, it goes back to having a budget, sticking with it, making sacrifices, and being disciplined about staying on that budget. And part of that budget, in my opinion, needs to be putting money in an after-tax account for those first couple of years of retirement.
Yep.
That's it. That's the bottom line. It's not like rocket science. I mean, there's a lot of other things that we have to factor in, but that is the crux of what I'm talking about today. And when you start doing one-offs and you say, oh, well, I want to help my grandkid fund their college or whatever it is. Okay, how are we going to do that? It's like anything else. Okay, it's got to come from somewhere. Okay. Anyway, there it is, Tony. There's what I wanted to talk about today.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I think this is good. This is a good topic from a different angle than we usually take. And I think we needed to address reality. What do people want to do when they retire? What do you want to do? And do you have a plan to achieve those goals? And that's where you come in, Brock, is to help your clients achieve these goals. And if our listeners have questions or want to set up a consultation, all they have to do is call you, right?
Give us a call, 573-332-7855. You can also request an appointment or a consultation with us via the website, and that is alspaughwealthmanagement.com. Myself, Jason Lee, Tracy, Danny, Danielle, we're here. We're here to help people that want to be helped, okay? And it's not a matter of, oh, hey, I don't know if I have enough money to go talk to a financial advisor. No. Go have the conversation. The financial advisor will give you advice, whether that means engaging in a relationship with him or her, as long as they're good at what they do. And I would imagine that most people around here would do that for you. Okay. I know we would do that for you.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to give you advice. Don't think that, oh, well, I just don't know. And, I'm putting money in my 401k. I've got a plan. No, that's not a plan. Okay. There's things you can do to help yourself now that just take the stress and the weight off, to know that you are going to have confidence of when you're going to retire and how you're going to retire. And that goes back to the original conversation about those first couple of years. How are you going to retire? What exactly are you going to do? And I would encourage you to have a plan to celebrate that phase of your life. Excellent. But that's going to cost money. So you make sure you save it. So,
all right. Alspaughwealthmanagement.com is the web address. Thank you, Brock, for a great show.
Thank you.
Does it. Yeah, no problem. That does it for today's episode of the Retirement Playbook with our host, Brock Alspaugh.